So we talked about average daily balance, and that's the average of the daily balances that you have on your card, and those are used to calculate your finance charge. But you don't just add up all the different balances and divide by 30. Like, if you had a balance of $20 and a balance of $60, you have to incorporate how many days you had each balance. And we did that last section. Well, of course, at the actual credit card company, they have computer programs that do all this for them. But we don't have those computer programs. So we use a credit calendar, and the calendar is used to determine the number of days at each balance, and that's used to figure out the average daily balance. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this one here in the notes, and then I have another blank calendar so I can show you another example through the document camera using one of the statements from yesterday's notes. And so we'll do two examples so that I can hopefully make it clearer. All right, so we're going to look at her account information. Now the dates that we use are these dates here. These are the transaction dates. And we use the billing date. We don't care about the payment date. Okay. And then we'll be using these amounts here and the previous balance. Okay, so those are the amounts we'll be using, and the dates we'll be using. We also need to make note of the number of days in the billing cycle. That's very important. We need to know that because that's how many days we have to have on our calendar, 31 days. Should we start with a statement? We get a blank calendar. Okay, we start with a blank calendar and we put in 5 and 7. So we have 7 days across the top and 5 weeks across the bottom, and that's because 4 weeks is only 28 days. And most billing cycles are 30 or 31 days. So we need to make sure we have enough boxes. So we'll have 35 total boxes. Okay. We have a 31-day billing cycle. Remember I circled that? Our billing cycle is 31 days, so we only need 31 boxes. So they shaded them out. You can just put X's in them if you want to. But you get rid of 4 days. You have 35 days, you only need 31. Get rid of the last 4. Okay. Or if it's a 30-day cycle, you get rid of 5. Etc. Just to make it so that you now have 31 boxes. Okay. The next thing we do is we enter the billing date in the bottom of the calendar. So if we go back, see how our billing date's November 13th? We start at the bottom and then we count backwards. So you start on the billing date November 13th. This is November 13th. And we go, okay, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's 31 days in October. So October comes before November, so we have 31 days. So 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 5, and you count backwards, and you end up on October 14th. This was the first day of the cycle.
Wait, how many days after you count?
You fill up we crossed out the 4 days we didn't need. So starting with the billing date at the bottom, we just count backwards from there. And we count dates backwards, and then when we filled up all the boxes, we land on the first day of the billing cycle. So this was the last day of the billing cycle. And that's the billing date. So you have to work backwards. And since it's not a calendar month, it's a 30 or 31 day cycle instead of like a technical calendar month, that's why we have to count these backwards. If it's like a 29-day cycle or a 28-day cycle, or, we just count however many. We get rid of the boxes we don't need and then just fill in the ones that are left. And you just keep going backwards. Once you hit November 1st, you know you're out of November, so the month before was October. And you figure out how many days that had. Do you guys know the rhyme? Oh, I don't know that one. There was a rhyme we learned when I was in school. It's 30 days hath September, April, June, and November.
Say it one more time.
Okay. 30 days hath, like have,
Yeah.
September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except for February,
And December. I don't know. I'm trying to rhyme. What?
which stands alone.
That's really sad.
So it was 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except for February, which stands alone. That's the poem I learned. So if you learn that September, April, June, and November, those 4 months are the 30 days,
30 days.
all the rest of them are 31. So if you just need to memorize those 4.
That's good stuff.
Well, and February, of course, is short.
This
But
is pretty sad.
well, yeah, depressing for February. But
Yeah.
so once I've done that part, I look at the posted dates on the charges and the payments. So if we go back, that's these. On October 25th, she charged $67. So that's why there's a plus 67 on October 25th. On October 29th, plus 55. Plus 55. And then November 5th, she made a payment of 160, so that's why there's a minus 160 here. And then these real quick and walk through it step by step. What you do is you've got your transactions put in there. Then you start with your previous balance. And from the statement, the previous balance was $829.30. So you write $829.30. And the book recommends you write it in every single day. I don't do that. I draw a line like that.
Oh, yeah. That's smart.
Okay? And then once you hit the plus or minus, your balance is going to change. So it's $829.30 between here and here. Thank you. Is that for me? Once we've hit to this 67, okay, so we carry the previous balance until we hit a transaction.
Right.
Then we add in the transaction. So I'm going to take that $829.30 and add 67 to it, and it becomes $896.30. Okay.
Put that in from our 25.
Yeah, well, that's actually in step 6. I kind of wrote it in the wrong place. So we're $829.30 all the way to here, and then we add our 67, and we become $896.30. And then we're $896.30 to here, and then we add our 55, and we become green $951.30. And we're $951.30 all the way to here, and then we subtract 160 because we paid.
Oh, good stuff.
And so then we're in the pink. It becomes $791.30. And then she's $791.30 until the end of the billing cycle. So that's how you figure out how many days you were at each price, because you start at a previous balance and then you add stuff and you take things away. And so you may have more or less days depending on how many transactions there are.
Right.
But we now know that this many days was at $829.30. This many days, then we had these days, like that. Oops. Okay, so once you've got those, so we have all these prices, right? Then what we're going to do from here is I'm going to erase all this. I need it bigger. Okay, you guys have all that step written down, so I'll just do the work.
And just edit it like that?
Yeah, I can do whatever I want.
Okay.
I'm magic. See, clean it up, get rid of that over there. Okay, so what do we do once we have that filled out, okay? Now we can calculate the average daily balance. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days at 8:29:30. Okay, then I go back to the next, which was 8:96, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 days at 8:96:30. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days at 9:51:30. And then finally, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days at 7:91:30.
I have a question.
Yeah,
How come it doesn't show number 8?
I just erased it
Oh,
to give me room to write it big enough for you guys to see it.
so do you want us to write that like separate piece of paper?
If you can, if you want to, you can fit it off to the side, or if you want to just like, there's a step 8 here, so if you want to just try to squeeze this part in.
I'll wait till you're done so I know how much.
Okay, so the sum, it tells you on your step 8 what the sum of the daily balances is. So when I multiply this, I get, and then I multiply 4 times 896.30. Oops. And if you add all those together, you're going to get that 26,488.30. Okay? But that's not your average, that's your sum of your daily balances. That's the sum of the daily balances. To find your average, you now divide that by 31 days, because it's a 31-day billing cycle. And dividing that by 31 days is going to give you that 854.46, which is your average daily balance. And so here's what this does. If they used your last daily balance, it would be beneficial to you because it's less right here. But if they used your highest daily balance, you'd be paying interest on the 951. Do you see what I mean? So they came up with this way of trying to make it fair and even. So this is the average daily balance, taking into account all of the daily balances and how many days they were at that balance. Because let's say you started out with 829.30 and you don't charge anything at all until like this day down here, and you charge $1,000, that would bring you up to 1829.30. But you wouldn't want to pay for all of these days at 1829, right? Because you would only have 2 days at 1829. The rest of them would be at 829. So you're going to be paying a lower finance charges because you only had the 2 days at the high balance out of the 31. So this keeps it fair for both the company and for the consumer, because this is the most accurate way to calculate this.
So what's going on here? They charge you per day?
They charge you, no, they charge you on your daily average. So your credit card bill, as you can see, it goes up and down throughout the month based on your own activity, right? When you're paying your bill or when you're charging things, it'll go up and down. This is the average balance. So if you were to take this, 854.46, and write that in all of the days, it all averages out to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what I don't understand is I thought that they give you like a certain amount to spend each month or whatever.
They do.
And then whatever you spend during the month is whatever you.
No. Okay. When you
I thought it was like a fixed rate.
You pay a fixed percentage of what you've spent. It's a percentage of however much your balance is. So if your balance is 10, you're going to pay much less than if your balance is, 400. And your balance is based off of your spending patterns. And what they're doing is they're saying, like, over the course of the month, you've had balances of 829, 896, 951, and 791. If we average all of that out, your average balance was 854. And you're going to pay on this. Now, if you pay your credit card bill off every single month and never carry a balance forward, you don't pay any interest. But you also don't build your credit. If you carry a balance forward at all, if you have one of these, a previous balance, that is when you pay finance charges. If you carry a balance forward, so if you have a previous balance from the previous month, so if this starts up here at 0, you don't pay any finance charges.
Oh, but
If you have a balance and you start the new billing cycle with a balance, then you pay finance charges for the whole month.
that's what you mean by carry it over.
Yeah.
So this problem that you're doing,
We're figuring out what the average balance
So what I'm
was.
saying is you're using a carried over balance.
Mhm.
Okay.
You have to,
That's why I was-
unless you don't have one. And if you don't have one, if your previous balance is 0, then all of this becomes pointless
And
because
when
you're
you
not
carry
going to
it
pay a
over, it
finance
goes to
charge.
0?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to calculate a finance charge if you have no previous balance. Yeah.
I just saw that my what is it, EPAT thing
Uh-huh.
was September 9th and I missed that. I lost this form.
You'll need to go talk to Miss Pegram.
When do you think the next
I have no idea.
Miss who?
Pegram?
The one you told me to talk
Yeah,
to?
she's in charge of all that. Yeah.
So wait, didn't you say? I don't know.
All right, so we've got the average daily balance, and now we need to figure out her finance charge, okay? Now if you go back to her statement, way back here, her monthly periodic rate, oops, that's not going to show up, is 1.415%. So that's what we're going to use. So we have a monthly periodic rate is 1.415%. Did I write that down right? Yeah. Okay, we need to convert this to a decimal first, so we move 2 places over, which gives us 0.01415. And we take the average daily balance times the monthly periodic rate as a decimal. And that's what equals the finance charges. And just in case anybody forgot, the monthly periodic rate is the APR divided by 12, which they had already done for us. So her average daily balance was $854.46. Her monthly periodic rate is 0.1415. So I'm going to multiply those together.
What does that say underneath the monthly periodic?
APR divided by 12.
The other one.
Oh, as a decimal.
As decimal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. And so she's going to get charged $12.09 is her finance charge. Back in section 5, this sample statement, right after all that vocabulary, we're going to do the calendar for this statement. Okay. So the first thing I need is her billing date and the number of days in the billing cycle. Okay. So she's got 30 days in the billing cycle. My calendar has 35 days on it, so I get rid of 5 of them. Because I don't need them. Okay, I start there. Then her billing date is January 23rd, so I start at the 23rd, and I start counting backwards. 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. And it doesn't matter. I'm not going like Monday through Sunday. That doesn't matter. I just need the right number of days. Okay, January 1st is the first day of January, so I'm out of January days. So that was January. So now I'm into December, and December has 31 days in it. So I hit 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18. That's December. Okay, so far okay?
Are we using this calendar on the back of the paper?
No, this is just one that I had.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is just for me to go over it with you guys again. I wasn't able to print enough of them to give everybody one. I just want to go through this part and then we'll go over the example in the notes again. Okay, so once I have that, her previous balance is 150.50. What I usually do is I go ahead and put that on there. And then she has a transaction for $75, which is on January 2nd. She spent money. And then on January 3rd, she spent some more money. And then on January 5th, she spent some more money. And then on January 10th, she spent some more money. And then finally, on January 21st, she made a payment. And that's minus because she made the payment.
This is a credit card.
Yeah. This is
Well, I like
the,
Christmas cards.
right? So this is from here that I'm getting those dates. Okay, so now I've got that. I like to use a lot of different colors when I do these just because it helps me keep track. And what I usually do is rather than use a lot of different ink colors, I use a different highlighter. Okay, so she's at 150.50 until she makes this transaction. So all of these days are going to be at 150.50. Then she charges $75. And that brings her up to 225.50. But she's only 225.50 for that one day. Because the very next day she spends $31.85, which brings her up to 257.35. And she's 257.35 for those 2 days. And then she spends 139.10. And so she's 396.45 for those days. Then she spends 38.50. And now I have to go hunt for more colors. Up to here. And then she pays 75, so I subtract the 75. And that puts her at 359.95. And she's 359.95 for these 3 days. So when I go to calculate her average daily balance, I count and then 1 at 225.50, and then 2 at 257.35, 5 at 396.45, 11 at 434.95, and then 3 at 359.95. So that's what the calendar does for us. is it lets us organize this in a way that allows us to easily figure out how many days there are. So the setup is not maybe necessarily the easiest thing, but then once you've got that set up, it makes the whole rest of the process much easier, because then you're just counting, and then you got some multiplying, adding. Does that help with the filling it out? Okay. So we're going to go now back to the notes. Where we've got this guy, John Smith, his credit card statement, and we're missing a bunch of information. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, before we go calculating average daily balances and everything, I'm going to look and see if there's anything that I can calculate given the information I have on here. Okay, I can't calculate the finance charge because I need the average daily balance. So A needs the average daily balance. B needs A, because I can't find the new balance until I know how much to add in for the finance charge. C, I have to calculate. D I can figure out. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, I need to bring that back up to where you guys can actually see it, huh? That would help. Computer land people can see it. Okay, so A was the finance charge, so I need the average daily balance. To find B, which is the new balance, I have to have A. To find C, I have to calculate that using the calendar. So I should put calendar. D I can find. D is the APR divided by 12. So I can find that one. And then E, I need the new balance before I can figure that one out. Okay, so the only thing I can do right now without doing the calendar is D. So I'm going to go ahead and figure that one out. And so D is the APR divided by 12, which is 21.6 divided by 12. And that gives me 1.8%. Okay, so D I could find. So far, okay? So we're going to start with that information. 31 days in the billing cycle means we need to get rid of 4 days. Okay? Our billing date is May 8th. This is that one I did backwards. I typed this one up wrong. We need to change this to let's make that the 29th of June. And we'll make the payment date July. And, oh wait, no, that's not going to work either. Hold on. I'm sorry, I forgot to fix it.
I'm just gonna wait till you're done.
Let's make this the 3rd of July for Kohl's. And we'll make the billing date the 14th of July. And we'll make the payment date, we don't care what it is, because we don't care about that for this process. So we'll just make this July and make that July.
The 3rd of July and the 14th?
Yeah. Okay, so our billing date is the 14th of July, and we have a 31-day billing cycle, so I'm going to start here with a 14. This is July. And I start counting backwards.
It's gonna be on top of 8.
Hmm?
On top of 8.
Oh, okay. Now, June is before July, right? So this was July 1st. So now we go to June, and June has 30 days.
Do we write this on the one that we have?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
What was the date of that one transaction?
Which one?
Kohl's.
July 3rd. We're just saying July 3rd. I need to remember to fix those dates. Okay, so here's our June and July. Our previous balance, if you look on the statement, is 576.32. So that goes in the first day. On June 18th, there was a payment of $75. On June 20th, there's a charge for $128.36. On June 28th, there's another charge for $56.83. And then on July 3rd, not May 3rd, July 3rd, there's a Kohl's for $47.33. We're going to stay 576.32 up until this point. In which case we're subtracting. So we take the 576.32 and we subtract $75, which puts us at 501.32.
I had a question.
Yeah.
About this whole system. When I had SunTrust, if I never paid my.
Okay. Once we get to that 128.36, we add that in.
629.68.
Yeah, and I'm just on the wrong pen. And then we stay that balance all the way to here. We think orange. And then we add 56.83, which brings us to 686.51, which we keep until here. And then we add 47.33, which is the last transaction in that billing cycle, so we stay that all the way to here.
Is that 84?
84. 733.84. So we have 4 days at 576.32. We have 2 days at 501.32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days at 629.68. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days at 686.51. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 at 733.84. So we multiply those. Okay, once I multiplied all those, I add everything together.
Wait, I have a question. Why does it say 42854? What is that?
That's how many days. This is the number of days.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Better? Okay. So once I multiplied the number of days times the balance, that's where I got these numbers down here, was this multiplication. Now I'm adding them all together. So I get this sum, and then I have to divide that by the 31 days on the billing cycle. Okay, and this kind of continues, and it's 9996. So that's going to round this up to 664 even. Okay, so this is my average daily balance. Quick checker kind of for you. If your average daily balance is lower than your lowest day or higher than your highest day, there's a mistake. It's going to be between your lowest day and your highest day because it's an average, right? And the average always falls between the highs and the lows. So if you go too low, lower than your lowest day or higher than your highest day, there's a mistake somewhere that you'll need to look for. That's just a really quick check. Okay, so C is my average daily balance, which was what? I don't remember. 664. Okay, now I can calculate my finance charge. I do my average daily balance times my monthly periodic rate. So 664 times 0.018, and that gives me 1195. That's A. So that would go right here. Now my new balance, which is B, is my previous balance minus my payment plus my new purchases plus my finance charge. And if there had been a late charge, I would have added that in there too. So 576.32 minus 75 plus 232.52 plus 11.95. And that gives me 745.79. And then the last thing I can do is E, which is my total available credit. That's my credit limit minus my new balance. So this is average daily balance times monthly periodic. That's a P. And this was credit line minus new balance.